Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be working with the Hero Arts August kit, which is all coffee themed, I love it. It's a very beautiful set. Ironically, I don't drink coffee, but I do make cards for a lot of people who are coffee lovers, so I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sorry this is so late. There's actually a little bit of a story as to why. I really wanted to include this because Hero Arts was so wonderful about it. When I received my kit, there was actually stamps missing from it. And so when I contacted them, they had to make new stamps, so it took a little while, but they sent it and replaced all the stamps that were missing from my kit. So you know what, Hero Arts, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much, because it was really odd that so many were missing. So thank you. All right, without further ado, let's get started on our first card. When I first saw this set, this card popped in my head. My husband is an avid, he loves coffee, and he gets very grumpy without it. But what happens is I think he's like half asleep when he's drinking it, because I find coffee everywhere. Like there's little drips on the floor, there's drips on the door. I don't know what he does. I've asked him several times, like, how do you do this? But like in the morning, he must be stumbling around drinking coffee. So I wanted to spill some coffee on this card, not actual coffee, but we'll see how this turns out. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp this coffee cup, and I'm going to use these words. I've decided I'm going to use "sending you a latte, love" with it as kind of placement. I'm going to move my cup over just a little bit so it's a little more centered. And I'm using the steam off the top. I'm not sure I'm going to use this, but I want to make sure there's enough room if I decide to. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Memento ink because I'm going to use my Copics to color this up. And I'm just using Memento to ink up the coffee mug. And I'm going to stamp it a few times. Memento ink isn't a very true black, I don't think, but the Misty really helps if you stamp it 2 to 3 times. Usually you can get a good impression. That looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to take my coffee mug out, stick it to that, and I already made a mask. And I did have to cheat a little bit. The one thing I thought that was missing out of this set was those coffee rings. So I'm going to stamp a couple coffee rings in the background here just to add a little bit of interest. I pulled them out of the one set that I had that had them in it is this set here. It's by Sugar Pea Designs. It's a very cute set. I already had that in my stash. And I'm going to use antique linen to ink up my coffee splatters here. I didn't use anything to hold my mask down. I just figured it was pretty basic shape that it would be okay and easy to do. So there's one ring. I think I'm going to add another ring, kind of overlapping. Okay, pull that out. And then I'm going to grab my sentiment, and I have no idea. I hope this is right. I'm not even sure if this is the right coffee cup for a latte. Hopefully. I am coffee illiterate, but I think no matter what, it's kind of a cute card. And I'm going to use VersaFine to stamp my sentiment. All right, it did stamp well, but just for good measure, I'm going to do it twice. Okay. All right. So that's the basic design of the card. And now off camera, I'm going to color this in Copic, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I have this all colored up. I chose to go with a series of greens, and I really like how it turned out. So much so that I stamped a bunch more of these and colored one in each color. So I have a red version. Now, some of these words I pulled from other stamp sets in my stash. I just thought, so I have rainbow, orange, yellow. There would be the green, blue, And then I have the pink, purple, and like a cranberry. So I made a whole bunch of these. Some of these I used that little steam stamp that was in the Hero Arts kit, but most of them, the words or the sentiments, I pulled from other coffee sets that I had. I love this Altenew one, so there's one by Altenew. But there you go, card number 1. There's the sending you a latte love. Coffee. How do you feel when there's no coffee? Depresso. And I have to check who that's from. I'm not sure. All right, for card number 2, I used a stitch frame to cut this craft mat, which is just smaller than an A2 size, and this is a top folding A2 card base. And what I'm going to do is take a couple of the coffee cups. I like this one here. Let's start with this, and I'm going to stamp them all over to create a background. So let's start with this. And I wanted a tone-on-tone look, so I got a brown, light brown ink pad and light brown cardstock. Kind of randomly trying to space them out. Alright, so let's clean this off. And let's see what we can fill in the gaps with. We need something to... I wonder if adding... Let's try this. This is an experiment. As always, I don't have a plan, so we're just kind of going with it. But just to kind of make these a little more interesting, I'm going to stamp some whipped cream on top. And I know this isn't perfect, but this is just the background of the card. And I still think it needs to be filled in a little bit more. So I'm going to grab something else. Let's find something else in here. I think I'm going to use the heart. Okay, for this next part, I die cut a rectangle, a stitched rectangle to put on top of this. And I colored the coffee cup and the whipped cream with my Copic markers, and I used the die cuts to cut them out. I used the die cut for the cup, and then I cut the cream out. I didn't like that white rim it leaves around. It kind of breaks up the image, and I think that's weird for whatever reason. So now what I'm going to do is put a sentiment, or figure out what sentiment to stick on this. Put my stamps away. And because it has this big dollop of cream, I'm leaning towards, and we put whipped cream on all those ones in the back, you are the cream in my coffee. I really like that one. Move this more center. This is my mini Misty. Okay, so my sentiment's too big, so what I'm going to do, it doesn't fit on this panel, and I'm okay with cutting this in half, so I'm going to cut between the letters because I can still line this up without them being attached. And I'm going to put "You Are the Cream in My Coffee" underneath. And now I have to be careful not to touch it because it does take a little while to dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this panel onto my card. Now I could leave it like this. I'm going to get some ribbon. I'm going to just play with it. I'm not sure I'm going to use it, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I found some twine, and I wrapped it around this, and I like the little bit of dimension or extra that it gives to it. And I also decided I'm going to pop this panel up. So I'm going to take some fun foam, and this is a cool little trick that I learned. I mean, it's pretty obvious, I guess, but I just... I didn't think of it the first time I did this, so I'm not going to put fun foam where this ribbon is. I'm going to kind of make this little channel, and this makes my card lay a little bit more flat because I don't have that bump in there then from the twine. And it also kind of helps if you put it real close. I'm going to cut another little piece from the twine shifting on your card. So that, you know, I don't know if you've ever put ribbon down and then had it kind of drift up or down and then you can't read the sentiment or whatnot. So I like the way that looks. So I'm going to take and adhere this down. And card number 2 is complete. Card number 3, I wanted to make a mirror image of this, so I stamped this with Memento ink, and I was thinking about playing around with acetate, and I could not get a nice crisp image, and I could go around this with a black pen, but I think I have another way of doing this. So let's experiment. Let's stamp this again the correct way. Because these are fairly close together, or fairly simple image, what I'm going to do is color these, and then I'm going to cut this handle off on this side and put it on this side of the mug. So let's see if that works. Finished coloring my mugs. I'll show you those in a second. What I did was I also cut a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel out of the lightest brown cardstock I could find, and I found a heart in my stash. Now it was out of a coffee set, and I am going to, and I love that it's made out of these little coffee beans. If you didn't have this heart and wanted some, you could just use any regular heart. I would think they would work just fine. But because I had this, so I thought I'd use it. I'm just covering the background up with these little coffee bean hearts. Okay. And I'm just stamping on Versamark, so it's one shade darker. And then I cut a 1-inch banner. This is 1 inch by, I don't know, I think it's 4 inches, but I'm going to see how long I want this, and I can always trim it off the side. And then I thought what I could do is take my coffee mugs and place them on here. Now I cut the handle off of one, so one is completely fine, and the other one I took the handle and cut it off of this side, and I'm going to adhere it on this side, and I've been playing with it. And is it perfect? No. But do I think anyone's going to question it a whole lot? I also think no. So was it a lot easier and faster than doing some of this other stuff? By far, yes. So I'm going to start kind of tinkering a little bit about where I want these coffee cups to live. What do you think? Does it pass? Does it look like I don't know. Look okay? Perfect. So let's trim this little piece off here. And let's think about what sentiments we would like to put on this card. Okay, I picked out We're the Perfect Blend. And I'm centering it on this cup that's in front. And I'm going to stamp this in VersaFine, and I've got a double motive here. I'm debating about whether or not I should heat emboss on this to make it like stand out a little more. So I'm going to see what it looks like in just VersaFine, and if I want, then I can go through and add embossing powder because it's an embossing ink. So let's see what this looks like first. Ooh, I kind of like it like that without the white embossing powder on there. I think I'm just going to leave it. I have a love-hate with embossing powder. It always seems to get stuck to everything, so. Alright. I'm going to let this set aside to dry, and then we'll just put the finishing touches on this card. Okay, I decided to trim this down a little bit, and I'm going to adhere this panel onto a dark chocolate piece of cardstock. I just think it helps frame and gives it more of a finished look. And then I'm going to attach that to a side fold card. And I debated putting a couple different things on the card, but what I think will look the best, or what I settled on, was taking the little steam stamp, and I'm inking this up in a dark brown ink, and I'm going to stamp that for our images. And there we go, that's card number 3. All right, for card number 4, I had to do a little bit of the prep work off camera. It's too hard to do everything on camera. But this piece here is a piece of glossy cardstock, and what I did was I took brown alcohol ink and I just put like a couple drops, and then I just smeared it all over the place, so it kind of was looking like, to me, it actually looks a lot like hair. So I'm going to file that away as an idea for another time, but I also think it kind of looks like steam, or, you know, just like, I don't know. Not doing a very good job of explaining it, but that's what I kind of think it looks like. I've also stamped and die cut and colored that coffee mug, and I die cut a speech bubble, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to stamp on the speech bubble. Coffee is always a good idea. So let's line that up. I'm going to put my coffee cup here to make sure, kind of getting it spaced properly. And I'm going to stamp this in VersaFine ink. Okay. I'm going to glue my glossy panel onto the front of a top fold card base, and my glossy panel's cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay, I got some dark brown ink out and a little sponge, and I thought this panel, to make it stick out a little bit more, let's sponge around the panel. So I think that helps it, I don't know, pop out a little bit more, gives it a little bit more depth. I'm also going to take a piece of fun foam and glue this onto the back to make it pop up on our card. You know what, I think I like the steam in this case. So let's take this, and one of the reasons I like it is because it hangs off. So what we can do is let's stamp this onto white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp this in that same brown ink I sponged with. Okay. So I kind of like how the steam comes up over the speech bubble. Kind of pulls this all together. But I noticed that the coffee cup is not grounded, so the first thing I'm going to do is kind of with my Copic markers, I'm just going to create a place for my coffee cup to sit. And I'm not doing anything fancy, just kind of creating a line. Just gives it something to sit on. Alright, so I'm going to glue this to my card. And there we go, card number 4 is complete. Okay, for card number 5, I went through my stash and I found this embossing folder. It's by Sissix and it's part of their Tim Holtz collection. And it is all coffee mugs. So I've already embossed my brown piece of cardstock and it's this really, really light brown. I'm going to try something again I haven't tried in years. I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to ink my brayer up with brown ink. And I'm going to lightly go over the top of these coffee mugs. And it's mostly working. I'm getting some ink between them, but you know what? I think it looks okay. Cool. So now we have a coffee cup patterned paper almost. I think I'm going to go over it one more time just to darken it up a little more. This technique works the best when you have a really tight pattern to your embossing folder. If you have a lot of open spaces, it's really hard to avoid getting ink in those. So like right in here I have ink, but you know what? I don't think it looks bad. So I'm okay with this. So I'm going to set this aside and this is going to be the pattern for our card. And then I thought we could use the stamps to kind of recreate one of these little cups, or attempt to. So we've got this thing. Is this the thing that goes on top? Maybe. Got this little straw thing. Boop. I don't know if you can see that on my paper. Hopefully I'm building this correctly. I'm kind of just looking at these, trying to find stuff that matches. So let me get this stamped out on some paper and I'll color it and then we'll come back and work on our card. Okay, so I have this all colored. I'm going to put this together because I think it's going to make it a little bit easier to manipulate. I'm not going to lie, I had to Google what this even looked like. I had no idea what I was coloring. Yeah. So hopefully this is right and looks right. I saw lots of things that were coffee colored and then had a ton of whipped cream, and the whipped cream kind of hung over the edges, which this seemed to fit. And there was a lot of fun colored straws and stuff. So I think that is our coffee embellishment. And what I thought was, I cut this circle and I got a little bit of ink on it, but I don't think that's going to matter because I can hide that under my coffee cup. And I have a red mat, and I just like the way the red pulls out that straw. So, like, makes the straw more noticeable. So I'm going to put the red down on my white top folding card. Then I'm going to adhere down our little embossed coffee panel. And let that start drying. I originally intended, I thought I was going to put this like right here in the front, and I think you could, but I do think it's kind of busy. There's a lot going on there. So then my next thought was I could take this circle and then put my sentiment on this, and then that kind of tones it down. So what I'm going to do is take that brown ink, the same brown ink we brayered with, and I'm going to sponge around the edge of the circle to kind of soften that white a little bit. All right, so playing around a little bit, I found this, and I think this is the best choice. This sentiment is by the Cat's Pajamas. It says, "May your coffee be strong and your Mondays be short." So I'm going to use my Misty to stamp this. And then the last thing I was thinking about was, let's see what it looks like with a piece of twine wrapped around it. We may or may not leave this on. I think I like the twine on there. I'm going to leave it on for now. I can always pull it off later. Let me know what you think. Do you like it better on, better off? But I think that is card. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more idea. Hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, I can't believe I almost forgot to do this. When I was Googling pictures, I saw a lot of the coffee, this type of coffee had, I'm not sure if it was cinnamon or sugar or like sprinkles. I'm not sure what it was, but there are these like brown dots in the whipped cream. So I added some glue drops. I'm gonna use a paintbrush to knock off some of these. Okay, so I put the little drops of glue all over and sprinkled some brown glitter to kind of mimic the cinnamon or the chocolate chips. Are they chocolate chip? I'm not even sure. But whatever that little brown sprinkle stuff they put on the top of those drinks, that was what I was going for. So I added a little bit of this. I know the camera doesn't pick it up, but I like the shine to it. It's just kind of nice, different. All right, so this is card number 5. Okay, for card number 6, I wanted to try something out to make a background. So I have 2 colors of Distress Oxide. They're the 2 browns that I have in my stash. So this is a non-porous material. If you have a craft mat, that works too. I just don't want to go looking for mine right now. So what I'm going to do is smush some on here and spray some water, and then take my glossy cardstock and kind of smush it in, trying to make it look like coffee. And got a little hair in it, but that looks pretty good. So let's do the other side. Looks good. All right, and now I'm going to heat set this. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of walnut stain to my mix here, some more water, and I can do this several times and get several different layers of coffee, so to speak, onto my cardstock. And I still want some layers to be white, I think. I'm going to heat emboss this layer. Okay, I'm going to try to add more color just to the center. Let me do some more ink blending here. It's more vintage photo and a little bit more the walnut. And I'm trying to aim the color towards the middle because I want to leave some of the edges white. That actually looks like spilled coffee right there. Okay, so I ended up making 4 of these backgrounds with the Distress Oxidings, and what I love is that they're all different. So what I'm going to do now is I have Distress Glaze, which is meant to work with these, and they take the fog off the paper. So I just have some on my little sponge and my little dauber here, and I'm going to start in little circles and start rubbing it. And if you haven't seen this before, it's really kind of neat. So it kind of brings and makes that vibrant again. And you see the 2 halves, so now it looks more like coffee. So it's just, I don't know what it's exactly doing, but there's some sort of reaction. And it takes that foggy color off the paper. So I'm just going to do this to all of the samples, or the 4 that I made. Okay, so I colored up another coffee cup. I think this might be my favorite coffee cup in the set. I love the way it looks with the steam coming up. And I don't know, there's something about that keeps grabbing my attention. So I have that. I also cut out of circle out of vellum. And then I'm going to take a sentiment, and I think I'm going to do sending you a latte love. And I'm going to grab my Misty. All right, let me cut. I'm going to dovetail the end of this. And I always do that by cutting towards the center of the cardstock and then from the 2 corners in to get my dovetail. And then all of these can go in the trash. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my cup and my steam down to the vellum. But what I'm still not a little sure of is if I want to put a mat around this or just have it be solid. So I'm still kind of a little bit on the fence about that. But what we can do is glue this down. Okay, I like this because this gives me the ability to move this around then, and I can decide exactly where I want it. But I am really liking this. So I'm going to grab a piece of dark brown cardstock. Okay, I backpedaled a little bit. I did cut this down to fit on top of this cardstock. So let's glue that down. And one of the things I did was took that banner off and then re-stamped it in brown ink. This way, I feel like it pulls the card together a little bit more. That black just didn't feel right on there. So, all right, so now we're putting this down to a top folding card. And this is still going to live here, and we'll cut the extra off. And here's the new banner stamped in brown ink, and I like that a lot better. Again, feel free to comment. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. Sometimes I wish you guys were in here in my craft room so I could like turn to you and be like, hey, what do you think? Okay, so now I'm going to put adhesive or glue onto the back of this, but I'm only going to put the glue under where the elements are on the vellum to hide the glue. And I like it. It looks like the dark veins in here are kind of coming out from where the coffee is, which is, it's kind of a nice thing. And I'm going to trim that extra off. And there we go. There's card number 6. I will finish these panels up and I'll share with you at the end what I do with these with other coffee stamps. All right, for card number 7, I decided I wanted to use a background stamp. I've already put it inside my Tim Holtz platform. The background stamp is from Concord and 9th, and it's just a striped background. So I'm going to stick my card base in here, and I'm going to ink this up with gold pigment ink. And here we go, we have some nice beautiful stripes. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rotate this again. I need to clean my stamp off, and then I'm going to ink it up in brown ink and stamp it. So I kind of have like a plaid looking background. Coffee cup that is face up. And this was actually really easy to color because most of it's just the coffee. And I'm going to attempt to use my white pigment ink to stamp this fancy cream design in here. I'm hoping this works. If you can hear that in the background, that is my son playing with his car. Oh, perfect. I love it. Let me hold this up so you can see it. It's real soft. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. And I have a top folding note card. I cut a piece of brown cardstock. And I'm going to adhere that on the top. There's a little bit of white showing. I'll just trim that off with my trimmer. And I'm going to adhere this background panel that we created. I kind of think this looks like a tablecloth. I wasn't really intending that in the beginning, but I do think it kind of has a pattern of a tablecloth. I also cut a stitched rectangle, and I cut a mat for the stitched rectangle. I'm not sure I'm going to use the mat, so I kind of want to play around with where the rest of these items are going to go on the card. So my idea is this kind of looks like a placemat almost. I mean, I realize the coffee would probably go up here, but I think visually it looks better down here. Alright, I really like the idea of stamping "You Are the Cream in My Coffee" on this little, like, I don't know, I'm calling it a placemat. So let's put this in the Misty. I'm going to use the Cup of Joe ink because it's in the background, and this way it'll tie together nicely. Okay, one of the things I was thinking is I just feel like this card needs something else. So I was thinking about a ribbon. I'm going to try this. See what I think here. I can always take it off. Alright, I think I'm going to leave it like this for now. I don't know, I kind of do like it up here underneath this panel. Tell me what you think. I don't know. This seems a little weird though. Usually, okay, well, I couldn't leave card number 7 alone before going on. That little white space around there was bothering me, so I added 3 hearts from the kit. Just, I don't know, it just needed something, so there we go. And that kind of fills in that space a little bit, and I think this card looks much more complete. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Should I have left the hearts off, on, the ribbon, whatever. Anyway, card number 7. Alright, for card number 8, I wanted to try playing around with these cream images from the stamp set. So I'm going to stamp them in Hero Arts Cup of Joe, and I'm going to create a background panel. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of stamp them all over. I was kind of worried about that, but I was also kind of worried about doing this in the Misty would take a really long time. So let's see if I can... I don't know, I think that looks pretty good. So we'll call that quits. We'll put Cup of Joe away, put this stamp away. And I think I'm going to go in with this little heart with some red ink. And I just happen to have this on my desk. It's Gina K Cherry Red, and I love that it's a cube. It's perfect for these small stamps. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of go in and fill in. Also adds a pop of color. Then my thought was, I'm on a kick with this stamp here, is that I can make a panel and then add the cream inside this panel. So I'm going to get some cardstock. I'll stamp that out and color it. Okay, so I have the panel that we stamped earlier. I cut that down so I could have a red mat, and I just wanted it to be really, really narrow, just to pull that red off. And then I also have a dark brown mat, and I'm going to glue that together and glue that on top of my top folding card. And I also use my dies from Lawn Fawn to cut this red heart. And I'm going to white heat emboss Love You More Than Coffee onto the front of that. Okay, I decided to try a piece of twine here on the side just to see what it looks like. I was going to put a coffee cup on the front of this, but I decided I don't think it needs it. So I don't know. So I'm just playing around here a little bit. So I think I like the way this looks. I like the addition of that twine. So I'm going to glue this down. What I think I'm going to do is glue this on the inside and then stamp the sentiment. And this comes from that Honeybee set. It says, "But please don't make me prove it." I'm kind of surprised this wasn't included in the Hero Arts thing. If you like this, and why don't you just handwrite this in? You don't have to stamp this in. I just have it, so I'm going to use it. But be kind of a cute inside message. Sorry if I'm off camera a little bit. Alright, so I said, "Please don't make me prove it," and then I'm going to glue the coffee cup that I colored down inside the card. I really do like this coffee cup too. It's really cute. So there we go. We have card number 8. Okay, so I have some good news and bad news. I'm not going to show you how I made card number 9 because one, I made a gazillion of them and we'd be here all day. And two, the full-size Misty doesn't fit under the space here. This is the mini Misty and it has a little bit of a hard time with the door opening and not catching on the lens for the film. So I couldn't really do this underneath the camera very well. So what I did was I took my full-size Misty and I put the Gina K Wreath Builder die. I'm sorry, maybe stencil is a better word, inside that. And I followed the directions that come with that stencil and I used the Hero Arts kit to make some really unique cards. I really like how these turned out. So let me show you what I did. Here we go. Here's card number 1 of this is all card 9. This is 1 in that series. So I stamped this heart cream, I don't know, the one that goes in the coffee, and made this like ring, and then I flipped it around and made another ring, and then I put this little, whatever this is from that coffee, stamped that on the 4 corners and put a message in the center. It was a very easy, simple card to make. I really like how it turned out. Just different. I like that it's not necessarily coffee themed. I mean, I guess it says a thanks a whole latte, but this one's definitely coffee themed. So here's a different one of those cream designs. Same little burst at the corners. I put you're the cream of my coffee, and then colored a coffee cup and put it in the center. Here is another one. So now I use the star or burst cream and then the zigzag cream towards the center, the bursts on the 4 corners, and then I did the hearts all the way around. I put glossy accents on the hearts, and this one I decided to pop up the sentiment. All right, this one I had a little bit of trouble with, and actually I would love your feedback on it. I love the blue, so this is the same. This was my favorite, creating this wreath with the heart cream. Then I tried putting the burst on the outside, and I actually stamped this with a Hero Arts cube ink that came from one of the kits, and I think it's in the color of Cup of Joe, but it was like something with the consistency of the ink was really mushy, and I was just curious, has anyone else had any problems with the cubes that come in the Hero Arts kits? I generally don't use them, but I had a brown one. I thought, oh, let's try it. And I mean, do I think it's not so bad that I couldn't use it, but it definitely isn't as crisp as using some of the other colors I had. I put the burst between each one of those little stars just for something different, and I put your sweet, so you wouldn't even have to know this is for coffee. Could just be anything. I kind of wonder if someone looked at this and didn't see the kit, would they think coffee or would they just... Anyway. Okay. Here is another one very similar to that last one, except I did it in pinks because I just wanted to try something a little different. So I have a dark pink and then a light pink, and then I put hearts on the outside and I put glossy accents on the hearts. So just a little different variation of that last one. Here I started pulling in a few other stamps just to see what I could come up with, and I kind of was trying to stay away from the coffee theme just to see if I could extend the use of these. So I did make that one ring. That was my favorite thing. I love the way that turned out. Kind of looks like a mandala, but I like that it's open to put a sentiment here in the middle. The sentiments from these cards are all from the Gina K set that comes with the stencil. And then these are the snowflakes, and then a tiny snowflake in there. And I don't know, I kind of like it. It's just a little different. Here's another one. It's that same ring, and then I took the blue, and then this is actually a flower, but I thought it looked like tassels. So I put that in between each one of these to kind of make it fuller. And again, I really, really like this one. And then the last two are probably my favorites. So what I did is I created that same ring, one in pink and one in brown, and then I added the zigzag cream coming out of each of those, and then I surrounded it with a flower, and in this case it's blue, in this case it's pink, and I was able on this larger one to put the leaves in on the bottom flowers, and then I add that little sun burst. I'm not sure what that is. Is that like, I don't know. it comes in the kit. Like I said, I'll show you again. It's this piece that's right here. It's whatever that is. And I added that. And so I added some glossy accents to the little dots in the cream just to add a little bit more texture and some glitter, I guess, in there too. And there we go. So that's card number 9. So the good news is there's lots of examples. Bad news, you didn't get to see exactly how it's made just because it's not really easy to do in this setting right here. If you haven't checked out Gina K's Wreath Builder Stencil, I suggest you do it. It's really awesome. I've been having a lot of fun with it, not only with these cards, but with all my stamps. It seems like everything is like, oh, can I make a wreath out of that? And sure enough, you can make a wreath out of a lot of the coffee stamps. So there you go, card number 9. All right, for card number 10, I always try to do something a little bit different, interactive, and I recently got the reveal wheel die from Lawn Fawn, and I thought, let's make a card. And I've actually never made one of these before. I just got this, and leave it to me because I'm gonna not follow the directions right out of the gate to see what we got. But I've die cut a lot of the pieces. So all of these came with the Lawn Fawn die set, so I just cut all the pieces. So this is going to be the front of our card, and this and this are going to be part of the innards of our card. So I think if I understand this right, I'm going to put the brad, I'm putting the brad through this white piece and then this inner brown piece. And I picked brown because this is going to be, it's coffee themed, and coffee tends to be brown. And in theory, this should spin around this brad. And then they said to take some foam squares and put them around the brad, but make sure that they don't touch. So I'm just right now following literally the directions right off the package. I haven't done a whole lot that's crazy so far. What I did that was crazy was they've given slots that you can use to create your window in this front panel, and I decided I didn't want to use any of the ones they gave me, so I took one of the circles out of the Hero Arts nesting circle dies, and I used that to create my slot. So what they said was that you're going to put your wheel behind this panel, and I realized that when I watched the instruction video, there are some embossed lines in here. You're not going to be able to see them very well, but you're going to have to kind of trust me. You want them to be, so you're going to slide it up so you just can't see the embossed line here and can't see it there. I probably should have taken this off first. All right, note to self, take adhesive off circle first. All right, let's recheck this to see if we have it in the right spots. And then you're going to glue this to, and this panel of cardstock, it doesn't matter because no one's ever going to see it. It's going to be on the inside of your card. So I'm just lining up the corners of that piece. Okay. And this bad boy should spin. There we go. Look at this. We've got a spinning piece. Now we can take this off, which always seems funny to me. Okay, what I did was I grabbed my Hero Arts Unicorn White, and this came in another kit from ever ago. And I'm going to ink up my cream stamp. And I'm going to stamp that right through the window. Okay, so in the videos, they always show them taking a ruler and pencil and figuring all this out, and I'm not much for that. So what I think I'm going to do is take this and turn it a quarter. See if this lines up. So I am noticing that it does show through just a smidgen through here. You know what? I think it's going to be okay. I don't think the person who gets the card is going to notice so much. So I'm going to take my second cream, which I don't know, I'm just picking them off the thing randomly. Stamp that in, and that is the little star one. Make sure that this turns, and it does. And I just want to lay this over the top just to make sure that... So for the most part, I really like this, and I'm kind of holding it there. The only thing is I can see my brad a little bit, but I think I can fix that. Perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually, again, I'm breaking the rules. Pulling this up. And I'm going to flip my brad over, so it's just the front piece that's over the top. And I'm going to put this back on. Thank you, honey. And now I have just the spinning wheel with the top brad. All right, I'm gonna use more of the squares to put and reinforce this so it's not so wobbly. Okay, so I put a bunch of foam dots all over the place, and I was going to pull the release paper off, but I think I want to stamp on my front panel first before I do that. But I am just setting this down where it's going to sit, and I can see that it still spins and works, and that looks awesome. So one of the things I'm going to put on my front panel is I took the coffee cup out and used that same circle to die cut the center of the coffee cup out so we can adhere this down. So now when it goes through, the cream design changes in the coffee cup. I love it. I love it. All right. Alright, so the one thing I really want to make sure I have in here is You Are the Cream in My Coffee. And I'm going to stamp that split over this coffee cup. And I'm going to use the Hero Arts Cup of Joe to do that. You did do it, honey. Good job. Alright, so here, You Are the Cream in My Coffee. Oops. I decided to stamp a background stamp really lightly on the back of this card just to help break up the plainness of the bottom. And I'm going to take some piece. Can you turn it down, please? Turn it down, please. Okay, now I'm going to remove all the release paper off. So I die cut the little arrow that also comes in the kit, and I mean the Lawn Fawn kit, to add to the card, and it lets the recipient know that this is an interactive card and that this wheel spins. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of adhesive to the back of the arrow. And I cut it in white paper because I wanted this to stand out. If you're not a card maker, you might not know or realize that this turns. But there we go. This is card number 10. You Are the Cream in My Coffee. Just love that. This was actually a really easy card to make. If you were kind of looking at these going, oh my god, I don't know if I could do it. This was really easy, and like I said, I modified it to make this harder. So this was not a hard thing to do. I hope you enjoyed the series. I'm sorry it took me so long to get it out. My husband is talking about making a card, so hopefully we can get that up, his video filmed and up in the next week. If you leave me a comment, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It helps me stay inspired to keep making stuff. Love to know what your favorite was. So all that is very helpful to me. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Okay, I made it a real quick bonus card. You can see there's only one stamp here from the kit, but I thought it was pretty funny. And I've had this sentiment in my stash for years. I think this is by Riley Bones. I'm not really sure. And then the dog is the Crazy Dog set from the French company, not the Tim Holtz company. But anyway, you can see that they pair together pretty well. It was a perfect fit. I couldn't resist. So there you go, card number 11.
Some men drink alcohol. Some men drink juices from the vine. But as for me, I'm very simple. Give me coffee every time. Make it warm and make it sweet, just the way my life has been. Give me coffee, 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 and let me tell you, you have found yourself a friend. Cincinnati, early in the morning, waiting on an old greyhound. Oh, Macon, Georgia, right around noontime, bring that coffee pot around. Make it hot, make it now. Put a little cream and sugar in. Give me coffee, 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 and you have absolutely found yourself a friend. A cup of china, a silver spoon, cream out of a golden can. See that pot? It's percolating. And it's just like music from a band. These old bones, they're tired and weary, but man, you can perk them up again. Give me coffee, 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 coffee. I guarantee that you have found yourself a friend. Yes, sir, you have found yourself a friend.